Hi everyone, this is Mr. Trio again, and today we are moving on to paper number 2, Historic Investigations. This presentation is called Tackling A-Type Questions. The frame of this type of question is usually describe 2 features, and we'll get into that in just a minute. As a reminder, it doesn't matter whether you are studying A1, the origins and course of the First World War, or A3, the USA, 1918 to 1941, or East Germany. This presentation is designed for students who are taking any of those topics because the questions for each section are exactly the same. Well, they're not the same content, but they're framed exactly the same. Maybe I should clarify that. Here we go. This is the marking scheme. As you note, it is a 6-mark question. The 1 to 2 range is just individuals who perhaps do not know what the vocabulary word which is being asked of them specifically is. And why I begin by saying that is that that's why it's so important as you go through each of the different units to create working vocabulary list and working with friends, perhaps using flashcards and things of that nature. Because if you don't know the vocabulary word, then there really is no way to excel beyond that level 1. Now, as I often say, what is this question testing? Well, if you go directly by the way that it's structured in the marking scheme guide, it is to demonstrate knowledge and understanding of the key features and characteristics of the period studied. And what I think that really means is that not only do you have to give the names, the dates, the details which are required for this question, that's your knowledge, but you also have to put it into the larger context or the main ideas of the time. I find often that students like to focus on the obscure fact, the fringe element of a topic. And one of the reasons why this sometimes comes up is that there are all these great videos that you can watch on topics in which the topics focus on things which happen one time to one person. But what this type of question is really trying to focus on is what was the typical experience at the time and how it fits into that. Here's a few bullet points to keep in mind. This does not require a formal essay, so don't worry about an introduction, don't worry about a conclusion. Write your response in full sentences with 2 clear paragraphs. Paragraph 1 is on your first feature. Paragraph 2 is on your second feature. Break it into 2 paragraphs to let the reader be able to distinguish what those 2 features are. And obviously, you don't want to write 2 features that are too closely associated with one another, or else you'll never get beyond that 3 mark. I know that especially if you're starting out with GCSE course, minutes and timing can sometimes be really distracting. But when you get into that year 11 and you get close to preparing for the final exam, you really can't spend more than 10 minutes on this A question. You really need to spend a majority of the time on the B and the C questions. Remember, the B and the C, which we will talk about later, are sources based. So there's a great deal of reading of sources and those types of things that you need to do for B and C. So this A question, answer it as quickly as you can, get your 6 marks, and then move on. One of the things that you do need to consider is that 2 options are always given for this particular question. So choose the one that you know the best. And even if you were to write something on both features for both choices, you don't get any marks extra. Once you hit your 6 marks, that's it. So if you continue to write and provide great detail, even if it's a great response, 6 is as high as it goes. The other last thing that I'll mention is that you cannot mix and give one feature for the first vocabulary word and one feature for the second vocabulary word. Once you've made a choice, you stick with that and give 2 features for just one choice. Now, I thought we could start with an example which has nothing to do with history, but essentially get you started thinking about the way that this type of question can be structured. So, for example, the question was to describe 2 features of the face or the hand. The first thing that you need to do in your first paragraph is one of the most prominent features of the face is the nose. It is in the center of the face and has 2 holes known as nostrils. Essentially, these is the details which you are providing in the same way that you would take a vocabulary word in history and list the specifics. Now, note the text in red. Why the red is also important is that this is what provides the greater context. The nose purpose is to help people smell and breathe. You can describe the nose in all of its wonderful characteristics, but if you don't actually get to the larger picture of what the nose's purpose is, then you're missing the mark. Obviously, you have to give 2 features, so another feature is the eyes. And notice how I did the same thing where I describe what the eye's purpose is. In this case, allow people to see. It is combining knowledge and understanding. Now, obviously, this is a very simple answer because it's a very simple question. The questions which are for paper number 2, of course, are going to be very specific vocabulary words, and they can appear from any of the units, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. More than likely, the vocabulary choices will not be from the same unit. So that may give you an advantage if you are stronger in one unit opposed to another. Now, how do we come up with the larger context? Well, one way to do it is think about it in terms of themes. Economics, military, politics, most of the choices that you can study from have these types of overarching themes, which you can try to connect to. This is one way to place that vocabulary word into the larger context. I will also point out that each unit has what is called learning objectives. Look at the learning objectives for each unit carefully. They often focus on things like reasons, significance, impact. If you can tie the vocabulary word to one of those, once again, that gets you to the larger context. Now, this is a question which is from the sample assessment materials. This document can be downloaded from the Pearson website. And this is a sample question from the A3 topic, the USA 1918 to 1941. Notice the bold text describe 2 features of either the bonus marchers or the 100 days. This bold is not my emphasis. This is the way that the questions are always structured. And I guess it's just as a reminder that you have 2 choices that you can make. You have 2 features that you need to name, and either you can choose one or the other. Now, let's look at this as an example of the bonus marchers. Maybe you know what this is, maybe you don't, but the main point that I'm trying to make is that if you were to try to cross-reference this with the official assessment materials from Pearson, you will discover that this particular vocabulary word, bonus marchers, is from unit number 3, the USA in Depression, 1929 to 1933. And then within that unit 3, There are three major ideas which are being explored: cause and consequences of the Wall Street crash, Hoover's reaction, unemployment and homelessness. Or in other words, as you give those two features about the bonus marches for this particular example, can you tie those to the larger theme, such as how Hoover reacted to the bonus marchers? Or does this help us to better understand the bonus marchers through unemployment and homelessness? I think that if you try to always take a small detail, such as the vocabulary word, and then connect it to the larger ideas, you will find that you will be more successful. And if you are choosing different bullet points in this case, such as Hoover's reactions versus the unemployment, then your two features will never overlap, and then you have a better chance of getting all 6 marks. I hope you find this video helpful and that you can find more materials on the Pearson website. Look for all the materials that you can download. It's a really great resource that can help you through your educational journey. Thank you for joining me.